Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope that wherever you are, that you are cool, that you are not too hot, that your land is dry, because like many of us in Philadelphia, we have experienced extreme heat and terrible, terrible, damaging rains. So I hope that everyone is staying safe. And for any of your assignments that need to be done, this might be a good time to make salad dressing and do some of the raw assignments and other things like that. I'm Char Nolan. I'm very happy to be with all of you today. And before we begin, I thought I would go over a couple of my favorite things, which I kind of seem to enjoy doing. And the first one is I've been using these new caps. They're by Recap. They fit the smaller mason jars. I have this one and I use this for making salad dressing. So this way, instead of having to take a jar that will spill on the table, this thing, and the good thing about them, there's two great things about them. They are a woman-owned company and they are made of recycled plastic. So we have the website up and you can use that if you're looking for something. I happen to have a million mason jars, and this is another one that you can use. And this has a pop top, and I use it for storing, nuts, rice, et cetera, et cetera. Makes everything much, much easier. That's my little favorite pitch for today. And going over a couple of things. As you know, we have a very nice presence on social media, especially on Instagram. And I wanted to let you know that we have two Instagram accounts. One is called Rouxbe Plants, and that is specific to the Forks Over Knives program, Essential Vegan Desserts, Plant Pro, and Plant Plus, and all of the other programs that have to do with plant-based foods. So we love people to follow us. And if you have made something spectacular, whether it be an assignment or whether it be something that you made for dinner the night before, tag us at Rouxbe Plants. We love to look at your work. You can always DM us on Instagram, and we're always happy to serve you. Also, we feature the blue zones on Rouxbe Plants. So if you're into the blue zones, and I've seen some beautiful work which has been posted and it looks quite lovely. And then the other one is Rouxbe, and you'll see information from Jacques Pepin, from some of the other programs that are not plant-based, but still very rarely is there crossover because it's almost two different audiences, but we love to see what you're doing. And that's so you've got that information. Please follow us, share with your friends. And also we feature once or twice a month on Rouxbe Plants, a student graduate who's doing fun and interesting things. Right now we're featuring Donna Meyer, who's a registered nurse and a diplomat in the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And she has an incredible story. She loves the fact that she went from being a home cook to being a professional plant-based chef. And she has a business which is called Circle Wellness Coaching. And she teaches people how to cook and how to shop and how to do other things. So we know there are a million stories out there. One last thing, and I didn't put the link up for this, but Shawnee Hayes, who was featured as a student of or graduate of the month, she is in the Carla Hall Best Chef Cooking Contest, and so far she's #1 in her category. So if you have been following that contest, vote for Shawnee because she was a Forks Over Knives student, and she's doing exceptional work in her community, and she's on TV, and she's written a book, and she's got spices, and she's just a really hard worker, and I really applaud all that she does. So you've got that down, and I think we're ready to answer questions. We don't have a lot of questions today because I imagine that everyone is either on vacation or at the beach. The first question is about salt and about fermentation. And Lily B wants to know if she should be using kosher salt or regular salt. I think that the best salt to use would be sea salt because it has minerals like magnesium and potassium in it. So it'll make your whatever you're fermenting a little bit more nutrient dense. Kosher salt also works very, very well. So it's a short and sweet answer. And I hope that that's helpful to you, Lily. It's good to see you. This is from Teresa E. Teresa missed Fran's excellent presentation last week on sweeteners and wanted to know what she should use in place of high fructose corn syrup when she's making pecan pie. So immediately I got on the phone. Actually, I texted Fran and I put 3 red siren lights in the message to make sure that she would see it because I wanted to hear from Fran. And she so kindly, in answer to Teresa's question, she suggests, you can read the question, it just flipped here on my screen. However, maple syrup is good, rice syrup is good. You can interchange them. If you read Fran's book, and I have highlighted her sweeteners chapter, which is really, really sort of like, if you ask me, the thesaurus in vegan baking. It's the best book. I find myself reading it sometimes just for fun. And I'm sure many of you read cookbooks for fun as well. But in Essential Vegan Desserts, Fran does spend a lot of time talking about sweeteners and how to make beautiful, how to sort of transfer a traditional recipe to one that is an essential vegan dessert. And, you know, we've all been used to for however, before we were plant-based, using cane sugar and whatever else. So Fran knows all of the tricks to convert a recipe to make it delectable and delicious. And if you follow her on social media at Good Cakes Fran, you'll see many, many of her beautiful desserts, which we also feature on Rouxbe Plants. So Fran, thanks for jumping in. I'm a fan of maple syrup. Remember, best to keep your maple syrup not in your cabinet, but in your refrigerator. The viscosity of it might change a little bit, but you won't get any crystallization, nor will you get any mold that could form. So even Fran recommends that in her book, and it's a practice I've been doing for many, many years. So thank you, Fran, for jumping in, because I know that you had a busy, busy day today. And I put up a couple of resources. Oh, here's Fran again. It's been so hot. And Fran knows that every day at 7 o'clock, I'm out my door on my bicycle, riding as many miles as I can before the heat does me in. But she wants to know, what do I like to eat on sweltering days? So one of my favorite memories as a child in the summertime is my mother making, Fran and I had this conversation the other day about making tuna salad in a lettuce boat with rye bread on the side on a Friday night. So if I love the Rouxbe tunaless salad, and I eat that, but I also find that eating a lot of cucumbers and also making cucumber water is just so refreshing and so delicious. And the other thing, when you live in Philadelphia, there are water ice stands almost on every corner. If you live in New York, you may know it better as Italian ice. I happen to love water ice, but in an 8-ounce cup of water ice, there are 36 grams of sugar. And the sugar content in a water ice can vary between 36 to 97 grams of sugar. Do the math, divide by 4, you'll see how many teaspoons of sugar are in there. So what I've been doing for the summer is making my own water ice in my Vitamix with 1 whole lemon chopped up, 1.5 cups of ice, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. I used this last week in my class as a dessert. Most of the people in the class were diabetic, and they absolutely loved it and found it to be equally as thirst quenching. So lots of water, cucumbers, and that tunaless salad takes me to the summer for the whole time. So Fran, that was a great question. Very good question. The next question comes from Suzanne. Hello, Suzanne. How are you? And her question is about whether or not it's better to grill corn on the grill with the husk or without. My own personal preference is that remember that there's a lot of moisture in the husk. So if you have it directly on the grill, the corn will not become dry, but it'll have a delicious flavor and it will also be very, very moist. My own personal preference is I do not like to grill it naked as it would be. So leave it on the husk. And I have had the pleasure of being at Aunt Esselstyn's for a corn roast, and she roasted in her husks, in the husks. So if Aunt Esselstyn does it, I'll do the same. So that is a question. That's a very good question. And it does have more flavor. Yes, indeed. It really, really does. This is from Peggy B. Hey, Peggy Bird. How are you? It's good to see you. Peggy Bird is going to change the face of the world in the grocery store. She's going to have grocery stores having much better environmental practices. And that's what happens to anyone who takes the Waste Not course, which, by the way, is free. If you want to learn about full food utilization, I recommend the course to everyone. So I already covered the answer with Fran's question, which was that tunaless salad, and make a double batch of it because I will eat it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's that good. Cold soups, a nice gazpacho. I'm working on a recipe for a food co-op right now because they're having tomato month next month. So I happen to like gazpacho, and I do remove the skin of the tomato because I just don't like that little texture that it gives. And I do like to add some whole wheat Italian breadcrumbs to it, which I think are absolutely delicious and add a different kind of texture. Peggy again wants to know about the bear. I'm sure many of you have watched it on Netflix. It's now in season 2. I've only worked at plant-based kitchens where everybody was very mellow and very kind, and we only served grains and vegetables and legumes. So some of my friends, and there was an article in the New York Times last week saying that they thought that many scenes were overly projected and not really, really true. I think a lot of it depends upon the overall nature and composition of the chef and what they're like as a person and how in check their ego is. Perhaps if there was a show about a vegan chef, we might see something entirely different. But that's a fun question to ask. And Suzanne has a question about mushrooms, and Fran and I are fortunate because we live very close to the mushroom capital of the world, Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. And I did a story for Veg World magazine where I spent the day at a mushroom farm, which was really, really fun. So the first thing is when you go grocery shopping, you would want to take either with you a cloth bag, because material breathes, or a paper bag. But if you utilize the plastic bags that they give you at the grocery store, you're going to suffocate the mushrooms. So when I get home, what I do is I just throw them in the refrigerator, in the back of the fridge where there's the most constant temp, and then I clean them when I'm going to use them. So this way they're still in their natural state. They've got some of that beautiful, delicious mulch on them that's going to keep them in good shape. So I don't clean them till I use them. Oh, interesting. What's my favorite post-ride meal or snack? Well, sometimes I'll just eat a cucumber or an orange, looking for things that have a good source of potassium. I also happen to like dates, which have natural sugars in them, and then they're also a good source of potassium. So if I'm interested in replenishing fluid, having a couple of dates and some ice cold cucumber water, and I am good to go. In parentheses, I need to let you know that I'm doing this really fun thing that is called excuse me, the Conquistador, the Conquistador Challenge. And right now I am virtually riding through the streets of London. And the nice thing about this is that ride your bike, walk, run, whatever your mode of exercise is, and then you track your mileage every day. And then you click on this picture and you get to see exactly where you were. So today I'm at the Queen's residence. So I'm out early, but when I come home, I'm going to replenish that fluid. So bananas are also another good source of potassium, as well as apricots. But right now, dates are my very favorite. So okay, when grilling beets. Oh, well, beets are one of my favorite foods, and I'm not embarrassed to tell you this, but um, Fran and I have a mutual friend who, for many, many years, sang at the Metropolitan Opera. But before she became an opera singer, she was my office mate at the University of Pennsylvania. And she was telling me one day, and this is many years ago, she was telling me about beets. And I said to her, "What? They're not canned?" Because I grew up thinking that beets only came in a can. So I'm not ashamed to tell you that. But I roast them in the oven with the skin on. And then when they have cooled, you just pop and all the skin comes off magically. Plus, I want to leave the skin on because all of those nutrients that are in the ground are going to stay inside of that beet. So I don't take the skin off until they have been roasted. This is from Bill G. Hey, Bill, how are you? He does like curries. We don't like to eat or use coconut milk or cream. What would you suggest? So I was suggesting to a student last night who was worried about the same thing. Um, just use your favorite plant milk, and that's what I do. And then I just let the dish simmer a little bit longer so that it gets that creaminess that you're looking for. And I've only had a good result doing that. So stay away from even the light coconut if you're one who has to watch your fat intake for whatever that reason might be. So whatever your favorite milk is, Bill, you're good to go. Let me know how that meal turns out for you. It's always good to see you. Ah, this is from, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Would it be Mijo? Hi, Chef Char. One question about red wine sauce. I've tried 2 times to reduce and failed. It just evaporates without significant thickening. Um, is it wine the problem, temperature, or else? Um, I personally, when I reduce balsamic vinegar, sometimes I have to put a couple of drops or a little pinch of cornstarch in it just to kind of help it thicken along. You could, I know some vegan chefs would put a little bit of agar in it just to help it thicken along as well. But sometimes it's difficult for the reduction to take place without some sort of an agent. And if you read this, you bring up another very good point just about commercial balsamic glazes, because some of them have a lot of added sugar in them. A lot of them have other different kinds of preservatives. So make sure that you read the label of the commercial balsamic glaze. And that's the other part of the equation here, Mijo, is that oftentimes we are comparing things to how we know them commercially, which might be something different. So you might want to try that and let us know how that works out for you. And you want to know if chanterelles are safe to freeze. I think that what you would want to do is to either saute them or cook them or steam them or whatever, and then flash freeze them, parboil them, or just blanch them, and then put them on a cookie sheet or a tray, put them in the freezer, let them freeze, and then once they have frozen, you can store them in a bag so you can take them out by the handful when you need to have some mushrooms to use in a recipe, but I would not freeze them raw. That was a good question. Off topic, Suzanne. Uh-oh. Um, oh, she's so sweet. She's recommending the Camino de Santiago in Spain for your next Conqueror Challenge. I did it in person and it was amazing. Actually, that's on my list of things to do in real life. It's been a dream of mine, and some of you don't know, but for about 15 or 20 years, I was an avid marathon walker and got to travel all over the world and visit great sites. So El Camino de Santiago is on my list, and congratulations to you. What a wonderful thing to complete. That's wonderful. This is from Kathy M. It's an activity question. She suggested to make a double batch of the cashew bechamel and freeze it for another activity. The manicotti uses the bechamel. The activity requires photos of the mise and the finished sauce. Can I reuse the photos? That is an excellent question. So I think that you can. And what we love to see is this photo is what I used when I did my first assignment. And that just clears everything up. But yes, there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel, especially when the manicotti is such a detailed, has many, many steps to it, and even making the bechamel. And by the way, when you're doing the bechamel assignment, in the third box where you have put either your penne pasta or your greens, it says, please list 2 examples of how this sauce can be used. And oftentimes, because I know that when we're doing assignments, we're so focused on the lighting of the photo, the ingredients, everything. There's a lot to think about, but make sure that you do list those 2 other suggestions for how the sauce can be used, because you don't want to lose any points for something that is so simple and easy. So, Kathy, great question. Thank you so much for answering that. So, one last thing here, and thanks again, Kathy. A great question. Some of you have DM'd me or sent me emails asking me about the Charlie cart, and there are almost 500 Charlie carts throughout the United States. Right now in the city of Philadelphia, we now have 4 of them. And the Charlie cart, as you may know, is a full kitchen on wheels that has a Breville oven in it, just like the one we took from Fran's apartment. Just kidding, Fran. And it has a Vitamix, and it has pots and pans, and it has every utensil that you could ever need. And it even has a sink that you can hook up to a reservoir if you're teaching out in the street or wherever. And they were invented in 2014 by a food educator named Carolyn Fetterman, who's from Berkeley, California. So where I'm going with this is that when you finish your program, teaching may be the thing that you want to start out doing. And so contact your local library or contact the Charlie cart, whose email you have, and ask them where there's a Charlie cart in your city or in your state. Because I think that being at the Charlie cart really allows you to take charge of what it is that you're going to cook and teach. Now, on a funny note, I have never used the Charlie Cart cookbook because the librarian didn't want me to lose the book, but that's okay because I use a lot of my own recipes anyway. But do look into it. There's an article that I posted today from the food tank about the benefits of the Charlie Cart. And interestingly enough, for many years, Carolyn was the food educator in the schoolyard garden with Alice Waters. So she comes from a very hybrid line of cooking and teaching. And I just love working at the Charlie Cart. I can't explain to you how beautiful it is and how much fun it is. And when someone calls me and says, and we have a Charlie Cart, I will definitely be there because it's much, much less for you to schlep. And if you want to bring someone from, you want to have an assistant, there's enough room to stand together. The height is great ergonomically. It's just perfect. So do look into the Charlie Cart. I think that you might find it just so rewarding and new. And if your library doesn't have a Charlie cart, make the suggestion. The other thing I wanted to say, and beside on my right shoulder, you'll see the Engine 2 cookbook, whose website you also have. I have a recipe in there for the Yo Adrian burger, named after Adrian Balboa, wife of Rocky, who's almost a patron saint here in Philly. Uh, anyway, there's the link for the Engine 2 cookbook. And let's see, we have a couple more questions coming in. This is from Bill G again. He has a side question. I sent to support a recipe of macaroni and cheese. Oh, yes. You know what? It did get to me, and I wrote myself a note. Don't forget to write back to Bill G, because it sounded intriguing to me. So I promise you that probably right after this, I'm going to get back to you personally. But thank you for reminding me. That's my bad. That's my bad. Thank you, Bill. So we're back to the chanterelle question. Why is it not recommended to freeze them raw? Because they're going to get frozen and lose some of their flavor. So even if you just blanch them for 1 minute, I think that it would be the best practice. Even if you buy frozen mushrooms in the grocery store, they have been blanched beforehand. So, but I say this, if you want to, put some chanterelles into a freezer bag and try them out and see how it works for you. But my own personal practice is that I would blanch them first. Suzanne has another question about garlic, the best way to store garlic. So this is what I do. I have a microplane. I grate a million garlic because it can get moldy, or it can start growing fronds in your kitchen. So I grate it, and then I put it on a piece of parchment paper, and I spread it out like a rectangle, and then I roll it up, and I put that in the freezer. And then whatever it is that I need, I'll cut off an inch or two and then use it if I'm doing an oil saute. So that's what I do. I'm also going to say, I see sometimes in assignments where students are using the jarred minced garlic. A, it barely has any flavor, and B, it's so expensive. So best to use fresh, delicious garlic. And you've heard me say before that garlic from Gilroy, California, the garlic capital of the world, in its natural color state. A lot of the there are some garlics that are pure white, and that's because they've been bleached. So you do want to stay away from them. So Suzanne, I think that works really well. And let's see. My one last thing is, if you're not reading this book, then the thing about Fran's book is that it's very encompassing. It's not just about desserts, but it encompasses a lot of the basics that we all use in the plant-based arena. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm leaving you with this funny story. So one year, Fran said to me, "I've made you a delicious dessert." I think it was for my birthday. She said, "I've made you some truffles." So in my mind, when I hear the word truffle, I'm thinking something like a golf ball. Because when you go to a store and you see candy truffles, in our American way of making everything overly indulgent. So when I opened up this beautifully wrapped box, there were these little marble-sized, delectable truffles. And it was at that point that Fran explained that you don't need to overindulge to enjoy delicious vegan desserts. So whenever we are at a gathering or something like that, and if she has brought her truffles, they are definitely something that I would eat and enjoy thoroughly 100%. So, and thank you, Patrick, for posting that. Thank you to Patrick, today's wonderful producer. And I'll see all of you next month. Look up the Charlie cart, see if there's one near you. Keep cooking, stay hydrated, love what you do, and look forward to seeing your assignments in my in bin. And Bill G, thanks again for sending me that email. In my mind, I thought I answered it, but I'll take care of it. Thank you again, everyone. Patrick, thank you, and have a great week, everyone. Stay hydrated. Signing off from the Sister of Brotherly Love and Sisterly Affection. Bye now.